SpaceX Dragon copies and received as well. Thank you.
As it makes its way to waypoint 1, we will close that distance to get to approximately 220 meters before executing the approach 1 maneuver that brings us straight down the docking axis. We'll be pausing at waypoint 2, which is approximately 20 meters away from the International Space Station, prior to initiating that final approach.
The side hatch, the hatch that they used to ingress Dragon just over 24 hours ago, that will not be used at all until after they splash back down in the Atlantic Ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. TBD.
Right.
6 months from now.
All depending on weather.
Yeah. And yeah, so that side hatch that was originally utilized to ingress, that will stay locked and sealed until they come back home. So that forward hatch that we can see now is what will be docking to the ISS and will ultimately remain open for the next 6 months.
So we're all set for the docking of Endeavour to the International Space Station and the completion of this day-long journey for Steve Bowen and his crew.
And this is the live view from Dragon Endeavour. That forward camera, as we make our way, you can see very close.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Approach 1 and soft capture ring extension will begin shortly. Dragon will continue to approach to waypoint 2.
You can see those thruster firings now. We got confirmation from flight control teams here.
Station Houston on the big loop. Monitor approach per step 3 of 1.102. Dragon approach and retreat monitoring. Let us know when your review is complete and you're ready for docking. And a reminder for Duke to begin monitoring for MLMTC restarts at this time.
SpaceX Dragon copies. We've got that review in work.
Station copies, and we're in work on 1.102.
Now the pause at waypoint 2 is expected to be relatively brief. We are tracking the lighting window. You can see that Dragon and the space station are illuminated by the sun. So waypoint 2 is more of a pause rather than a hold. But as long as all the flight teams give a go, we'll proceed in for a docking and beat that lighting window.
It basically provides the information, when we say monitor progress, they're able to have that insight into the expected delta Vs, the magnitude of the burn, how long it will last, and of course the countdown timers.
If we get views from the station, here we go, looking at Dragon, soft capture ring is that gray structure in the middle. You can sort of see some of the features. That is... it's a soft capture ring because when it makes contact with the station, it actually has a little bit of give, allows for a softer docking, so it's not hard, although the approach is very slow. And then as part of the docking procedure, the soft capture ring starts to retract and really pulls the Dragon in and allows hooks to drive to the international docking adapter, the hooks being on the Dragon side, that allow for a hard mate to the International Space Station. Space Station flight controllers, in the meantime, are working with the station's attitude control configuration, altering between gyros and different thrusters on the station side. There is a very calculated set of procedures that have to do with a docking to minimize those loads on both spacecraft.
We are just under 3 minutes until we reach that hold point. There on screen we can see those Draco thrusters continuing to fire.
There's a vestibule that separates the Dragon from the International Space Station. They're both pressurized for humans to be able to successfully live aboard, but we need to bring that vestibule up, which is sitting at vacuum, to allow us to open up the hatch and actually enter into the International Space Station. Very important series of steps. So we are going to hold at waypoint 2.
Hey Steve, as you can see, Dragon is holding here at waypoint 2. This is due to that Hook 5 microswitch issue that we had. And ground is going to be investigating commands and next steps, and we'll come back with more words.
SpaceX Dragon copies. We'll be standing by.
Ground is still working on investigating a path forward. The docking system is configured as expected, but believe we will require a software override to continue with docking. Vehicle is healthy, no crew actions at this time. Over 2 hours of hold time margin at waypoint 2. Hop copy. Hey, just wanted to give you an update that we have a set of software commands that we are currently testing. We expect feedback soon, but also want to offer that if you prefer to open your visors, you are allowed to.
Okay, thanks. Copy. I've got a software fix in work in testing now, and we're going to open visors.
Good readback. We have a software override to disable the faulty hook 5 switch. We have verified through other telemetry that the hooks are all open and configured for docking. Software is testing this command and still needs a few minutes as this is a gate to resuming. No crew actions at this time. How copy? Hey Steve, just wanted to give you another update. We're still working through software testing and ensuring thorough verification. Expect more answers in approximately 10 minutes.
Now, one thing I want to point out, while this view is gorgeous, it is incredibly deceiving. It looks like Dragon is just floating quite still, which couldn't be further from the truth. Both the space station and the Dragon capsule are going about 17,500 miles per hour, orbiting planet Earth.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop for status.
SpaceX Dragon, go ahead.
We have approximately 9.4 minutes of hold time at waypoint 2, limited by prop. Software testing is continuing, and teams are working to get this right, not just fast. We'll come back with more updates.
SpaceX Dragon, we're standing by.
We have a software override command that will allow Dragon to continue to docking. Again, teams have verified that Dragon is in the correct docking configuration. Ground will be sending the override command. Ground will then pull for another go, and then brief crew when ready to resume.
Hey Josh, just for your essay, you may have noticed in voice to us that we don't have space ground 3 and 4. That's because we've gone to our KU mask. We'll regain that at 0651, just for your essay. We don't need it for docking.
Ground has pulled go for approach 2. Confirm crew readiness for final approach and that visors are down. As a reminder that once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted. How copy?
SpaceX Dragon copies all. Our visors are down and the crew is ready to resume.
Copy, Steve. Dragon is go to command resume.
Here we go.
Station Houston on the big loop. Dragon is resuming approach and is go for docking. Monitor percepts 5 and 6 in 1.102. Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
So that soft capture ring will be...
Meters.
Copy, 10 meters.
A call from inside Dragon Endeavour, 10 meters in closing. We'll get those calls from the crew, including Chop, and then confirmation of contact and capture. Visuals are not a requirement to proceed with docking, so even though we don't have KO, even though we don't have videos, we do have plenty of telemetry coming down to give us the confidence we need. And of course, we have the crew aboard Dragon Endeavour and International Space Station that are witnessing the action now.
Once again, Dragon is making its way, closing the final meters between itself and the International Space Station, specifically the Zenith port.
SpaceX Dragon 5 meters.
Copy, 5 meters.
Only 5 meters to go.
It's a slow and methodical approach. Progress seems to be good for the crew aboard Dragon. Of course, Josh Cassada and Nicole Mann are inside the International Space Station monitoring. There are safeguards in place if needed, but right now we're looking pretty good.
Once again, we'll bring those live views whenever we have them. Unfortunately, they're not available at this moment in time, but those visuals are not required.
SpaceX Dragon 2 meters.
Copy, 2 meters.
The crew is monitoring, as you can tell from those callouts from inside Dragon Endeavour. Those
Meter.
last meter to go.
Copy, 1 meter. Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, soft capture confirmed.
SpaceX Dragon copies. Thank you.
That soft capture occurring at 10:40 p.m. Pacific Time, 12:40 a.m. Central Time. International Space Station and Dragon were 261 statute miles off the coast of Somalia in eastern Africa.
It's great news there. Now, of course, as we were saying before, everything is scheduled. It's step by step, and there are still a few steps to complete before Dragon.
Soft capture ring retraction in progress.
Still a few steps to go before Dragon is securely attached to the station. So there we just heard the call out that that soft capture ring retraction was in progress.
That soft capture ring is pulling the Dragon Endeavour in closer for the next series of steps, which will be closing those hooks. There are 12 hooks, and they'll close 6 at a time. And once all 12 hooks are engaged, that confirms a hard capture. In the meantime, on the International Space Station side, they're working an intricate series of attitude control maneuvers to allow minimal loads during this ring retraction process, using gyros and other thrusters, mostly disabled at this point.
In the next couple minutes, we'll hear updates regarding the hard capture sequence. We should hear a call out in the next minute or two indicating that the hard capture sequence has begun. That will take about 4 minutes, and at that point in time, we will have a complete hard dock, at which docking will basically be complete at that point in time. Of course, more time before the side hatch is opened and the crews get to greet each other on board station. But as of right now, we have had confirmation that the soft capture ring retraction is complete. That's the part that, as Gary just said, pulls the Dragon capsule in toward the International Space Station. And then next up, we will have that hard capture sequence start.
Flight controllers are monitoring the soft capture ring retraction, and everything's looking good so far. They mentioned the soft capture ring. The Dragon is inside the vestibule, so that's important. It's pulling it in, lining up those hooks to begin that hard capture sequence that you were mentioning. Again, visuals are not a requirement for this process. We're getting plenty of telemetry and confidence from the teams on the ground. Things are proceeding nominally. Of course, those readouts from the crew aboard Dragon and the International Space Station monitoring as well. Everything's looking good.
If you've recently joined, Dragon had a pretty smooth journey to the International Space Station. They launched from Kennedy Space Center.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop, ring retraction complete. Docking sequence is holding for MCS reconfiguration.
SpaceX Dragon copies.
Flight control teams monitoring a good ring retraction. Right now they're pausing to allow International Space Station attitude to configure. I mentioned a series of intricate maneuvers to make sure to minimize the loads on the Dragon through the docking process. Once those hooks are engaged, they can go back to a nominal configuration. But in the meantime, there's this pause. Of course, we'll be standing by for that hard capture sequence. We did upload that software override for the hooks. That'll be an important milestone to make sure that those hooks engage for a hard capture, so we'll stand by and wait for that. But again, we did have a soft capture confirmed at 10:40 p.m. Pacific Time, 12:40 a.m. Central Time. And again, the ISS and the Dragon were off the coast of Somalia in eastern Africa at the time of docking.
SpaceX Dragon copy, hard capture complete.
Beautiful view there from the cameras on board the International Space Station. That is the Crew 6 capsule, as it has just completed the hard capture. Docking sequence not quite yet complete, but hard capture is complete. That is the zenith port of the ISS.
That's a great indication of the hooks, too. All 12 hooks are engaged in place, looking good.